What's good, everyone? Welcome to today's aftermarket trade recap. Going to go over the one trade that I took in the PM session, but before I do that, I'm gonna go over the daily, kind of like the morning session, everything that led up to the trade. So yeah, getting into that. In the morning, I was not on, and I'm kind of glad that I wasn't because we had terrible price action, especially between like 10 a.m. and 10:45. They're just nothing really presented itself, and there was that range of chop we had, and it wasn't until we started going past 11 a.m. is where we started to see a move, and then even lunch hour kind of consolidated. So I wasn't sure if we were gonna get a setup for today, but again, when the morning accumulates like that, there is always a possibility that we can distribute in the PM session, and that's exactly what ended up happening. So, and then as for like a daily bias, there was no daily bias or anything like that I had on the day. But then once I had hopped on around, or once I had hopped on the charts around 11:30 market time, or like 11:40 ish. That's when, which was down here. That's when I started to form a short bias because we had these equal lows down here and significant liquidity down here. But we ended up retracing up higher before we got into the PM session, and around a little after 1 o'clock, like 1:06, 1:07, somewhere around this time frame right here, is when I had started noticing that we had equal lows, sell side down here, which was the lunch low of the session, and then this low resistance liquidity. And I started marking things out, and I'm like, okay, this is actually looking to be a really good setup. And it is. I mean, we had a 5 minute we were holding. We had an SMT, which is when I really knew like this was a setup to enter in. We had low resistance liquidity, sell side, and equal lows. We did have equal highs above, but they were not significant to where the entry would have been. Almost like almost 30 points away, just shy. So nothing really to worry about with the equal highs, and just very confident on this draw. And yeah, so now this was the new thing that I was looking for. And I mean, yeah, we had this down here in my original, but all I'm trying to catch is a small significant move that's good enough. I'm not trying to catch the very top, the very bottom. So this is all I was looking to catch. And now the one thing I will say, this was an amazing setup besides kind of my entry. Um, and that's because I had thought we inversed here and we didn't. So we like came down and then tapped into it, and that's when I had entered, or not. I would say more so like the 5-ish minute, or yeah, around here. But technically, the entry should have been down here. So I will admit I did early enter on this. Either way, we did get the candle close though. It did end up being an inverse fair value gap, so it works out in that sense. And yeah, so I'll just run the setup here. So well, I forgot. Technically, I do have to enter in the sense of here because I won't get the entry that I. There we go. So a little bit of slippage, but stop loss here. Now, the one thing I will say, which I was kind of going on about earlier, is that while I was mapping everything out too, it obviously wasn't an impulse entry, as in the sense of it not being my model. It was just more of the sense that I had thought I missed it when I thought we had inversed here, and so I had entered um, and didn't really assess my risk before or my contract sizing. So on here, I had entered shorts, realized I entered on 1 mini, which is not exactly what I wanted to do. If I'm gonna go 1 mini, I'd kind of rather be 10 micros just in case I do want to leave runners. Um, and on my top step, I ended up entering 4 micros, which I'd rather keep the risk the same and enter on 10 micros on my top step. So that's where I did mess up on today. But once I had entered, I quickly assessed my risk. I was like, okay, don't want to lose anything like over 200. Honestly, a little shy than 200. So obviously a little bit of slippage here, but I was risking about 8.75. So yeah, just shy under 200. I think like 180 ish around there. And then obviously with the 4 micros, it would have been very low. Um, I think no, I'm not entirely sure, honestly, but it would have been very low risk. So Yeah, and then the risk to reward 8.75 stop loss for 32 points. I mean, the risk to reward on it is insane. So yeah, ended up taking it, started to see it play out, and I really wanted to see us run through this low resistance liquidity, which is exactly what we did. Now, the one thing that kind of sucks about this setup, which I mean, it's unfortunate, it's just the fact that ES ended up taking out the lunch session low before why am I confused here? Hold on, let me turn on this because I know it did. Yeah, okay, there we go. I was looking at the wrong thing or the wrong candle. So yeah, as you can see, ES ended up taking out the lunch session low before NQ. So once I noticed this is where I started trailing my profit. And I think originally, like at first, I was about here. And then I started moving. Actually, I think I did get stopped out in this candle. I'm not gonna lie. I got stopped out for around 275. I know that. Yeah. So there we go. So stopped out either on that candle or that candle there in profit. And then yeah, I mean, as you guys can saw from before, as soon as we kind of accumulated after creating the SMT, we just straight up took out the sell side, took out the equal lows, and then after that, it was just a massacre for shorts. Took out this significant low, and then came all the way down to my original bias, which was these equal lows and sell side. And I don't even think we took out these equal lows, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe we did. I think we probably did, or just doesn't recognize it. But yeah, I mean, either way though, the bias played out. It's just unfortunate on how much we decided to dump after I got stopped out in profit. Because I mean, obviously, catching something like this not gonna happen all the time. If I would have entered micros, hypothetically, maybe I could have left runners. I mean, probably to this significant low, honestly. But it's more so the fact that it's unfortunate that just getting stopped out in profit and then it dumping towards my original TPs because there was a little bit of money left on the table. But at the end of the day, again, I've been more so on the careful side of securing a decent amount of profit instead of just getting break even on a day or something like that, especially being so far in profit. And especially when we get an SMT after taking out a significant lower high, like a lunch session in this example low, I'd rather be safer than sorry. So the bias ended up playing out. It was a great trade, besides a little bit the early entry. But I still secured profit at the end of the day, and that's all that matters. And even for what I was risking, I mean, the realized RR wasn't the best, but it was still over 1-to-1. So I'm happy. Yeah, it just obviously would have been nice if I was able to catch the full move. But that is pretty much it for today. Tomorrow is the last trading day of the week, and hopefully I see you guys tomorrow. Yeah.